So, we've just watched the Channel 4 show Katie Piper's Extraordinary Births, for which we were very briefly featured.
16 seconds
Blinking.
of fame.
Yeah, blink and you'll miss this. It's kind of funny. Speaking to one of the other couples that were involved in the show as well, it's interesting that, there's a lot of filming that goes on, and obviously that gets cut down. That is actually one of our criticisms. One of the things that we thought was a bit of a shame with the TV show was the over-editing and kind of overly sharp presentation.
There was lots of filler stuff in between actual content, so you didn't actually get to see that much of any of the couples and hear what their opinions were and what they were actually what their choices were actually all about.
Too much filler, not enough content.
Yeah.
And that's a shame, because I think that there was a lot of content that could have put in there.
From our side, certainly we know there was, because we did hours and hours of just filming our everyday lives and us talking about our choices and stuff like that. So.
Yeah, and we're sure that other people would have had a lot of content and about where they were coming from, what they were sharing about. So it's kind of a shame that both from our perspective of what we were trying to share, but also seeing what other people had to share. I was sad that I didn't get to see more of that and couldn't get to experience that and maybe have a bit more of appreciation from where other people come from and see the different aspects and ways you can give birth, and to genuinely see that, and you need content to see that.
Yeah, you can't make choices unless you understand why they're available and what the positives and negatives of it are.
Yeah. So that was a shame. It was a shame that they went more for kind of silly TV stuff. Yeah. Lacking in concentration and power and flirty minds. You need fast images and bouncing around. But a result of that is often you get, lacking in content. So that's a shame. Yeah,
but we were grateful to be able to share our lives with people on the show, and it was a really cool experience to be involved in something like that.
Yeah.
And we've connected with one of the other couples, and I think it's going to be a brilliant friendship.
I think so. I think it really could be. And that the positive of the show being that they did try and present or give a platform for people to just present the idea that there are different ways you can give birth.
Yeah, it was all positive, and there was no judgment of being doing something a bit different.
Yeah, and that's really cool.
Yeah, that's really, really cool.
Yeah, because that was what they stated that they wanted the show to be about beforehand. That's one of the reasons we wanted to be in the show, or we agreed to be in the show. But so lots of times things are said and they're not followed up with. So it was really cool that
they followed through on that.
They followed through on that, and they weren't trying to rubbish anyone's ideas or birth plans. They were genuinely interested in looking and seeing some of the other options that are there. Wacky and wonderful and not alike. So that's cool. One of the things we kind of felt we did see from the show was kind of maybe a take-home message.
Yeah.
Might be a bit controversial, this. Not many other people, well, no one else has kind of said this. So the two births that were featured most heavily, it could be argued, of course, they were just the most interesting. I would disagree. I wouldn't necessarily say ours is the most interesting. Obviously, it was the way we wanted to do it for us.
Yeah.
So we think it's pretty interesting, but I would have liked to have seen more about Haket and Samatawi's birth.
I would have liked to see more from the bodybuilder girl as well.
Yeah, I would have liked to see more from her as well.
Fitness, people don't stay fit when they're pregnant, and fitness is a huge interest of mine. So I would have liked to see more of that.
Yeah, I mean, from Haket and Samatawi's perspective, Haket is a professional jeweler. That's what she does, a profession. So surely it's quite interesting to see that what someone does as their part of their profession, how would they apply that to themselves and work that to themselves.
Yeah, that's always an interesting perspective.
Yeah, I think maybe missed a bit of a trick there. You did see a bit of those two, but I think you could have seen a lot more. And the bodybuilder, yes, she would have been interesting to see more. She's pretty mean, pretty lean.
She's a beast.
She is a beast, isn't she?
In the best of ways.
Yeah. And that would have been cool to see more of. But the two births that the show decided to focus on were the woman in Hawaii who was with the dolphins. Yeah, let's just frame it as with the dolphins. Because they weren't actually there for the birth, were they?
No.
And the woman who was pregnant with twins and had an elective C-section, which is the standard practice of care in the UK. To have an elective C-section, is it 37 weeks?
37 weeks for twins.
For twins.
But you don't have to do it that way.
No, you do not have to do it that way. So, but those are the two births I featured. So the take-home message we kind of got from the show was, you can be the mainstream model and follow the mainstream model and have the elective C-section and be very medicalised birth, which in some situations can be literally life-saving, but in the majority of situations it's actually detrimental.
Yeah.
Or you can swim with dolphins and give birth in the sea. Now, I'm pulling a face there. I'm not trying to rubbish the idea of that woman's birth plan and what she went through.
I think it's great that she did what she wanted to do.
But it's pretty wacky.
But by mainstream standards, it is wacky.
And by being so wacky, it's also really easy to just dismiss as ridiculous and then say, but the only other option is the mainstream medical model, overly medicalised, and all the problems that come with that.
They're like polar opposites, and they juxtapose them together. So it just like and then the way I don't know. I suppose it's just the way they put them together.
Yeah.
It was
a clear contrast.
Yeah, it was a clear contrast.
And it made it a clear choice, whether it was said or not. That's the way TV is structured. That's what the two choices being presented make you pick this way or that way.
Yeah. So that was a bit disappointing.
It was. I mean, the presenter of the show, Katie Piper, she had a personal affinity with the woman from The Whirl, who had the elective C-section with the twins, and so she very much framed it as she resonated with her. So the show definitely gave the option of swimming with dolphins or very medicalised birth plans, and the presenter of the show kind of said that she really connected with the person with the medicalised birth plan. Yeah. So the take-home message of the TV show, whilst presenting everyone in a positive light, whilst not being negative towards other birth plans, the take-home message of the TV show is medicalised birth. That's the way TV works. That's the way presenting information and ideas works. You present your idea, you formulate a consensus, you give the option, and then you present the solution. If someone wants to know a little bit more about that, Noam Chomsky and his work with manufacturing consent would be a great source of information.
What's the documentary?
The Century of Self, a documentary by Richard Curtis.
Which you can watch on Vimeo.
Which you can watch on Vimeo for free. You can watch kind of documentaries about manufacturing consent by Chomsky as well online for free. They're really great. So, and they'll kind of break things down for you if you're maybe not familiar with the structure of media and the way it can work. So that's what's presented by the show. That's the solution that's presented by the show, and that's a bit sad. But again, it's mainstream media, so these things are always have the potential to be presented that way and come across that way. There you go.
Anything else?
Anything you'd like to add?
I've got one thing to add very quickly.
Yeah.
So we're doing a 10-week program where we're calling it Growth for Both. And so it's a 10-week program for mums and mums to be, and it's going to cover everything from including more fruits and veg in your diet, raw fruits and veg, to keeping active and moving while you're pregnant or while you've got a new baby, and what was the other thing? Oh, and like emotional things to work through And so, like, that's up on our website. We're encouraging people to go take a look at it. And it's going to be a brilliant program.
Yeah.
We'll put the link in the description.
Yeah, and the link to Chomsky's work of manufacturing consent and Richard Curtis's documentary, The Century of Self, will be in the description as well. Check them out. They're good. Bye-bye.